We left off last episode talking about the abolitionist John Brown and his part in the brutal massacre that occurred on May 24, 1856. After the murders at Pottawatomie Creek, the pro-slavery party wanted John Brown to pay for his crimes. The U.S. Deputy Marshal Henry C. Pate and members of the pro-slavery Border Ruffians militia were sent to capture John Brown. Henry C. Pate and his Border Ruffians searched and ransacked the homes of anti-slavery people to check if they were harboring John Brown. These actions angered the anti-slavery people, further pushing them from helping Pate and his Border Ruffians find John Brown. John Brown was able to evade capture, but Henry C. Pate managed to capture two of his sons, Jason Brown and John Brown Jr. Early June of 1856, Henry C. Pate and an estimated 75 Border Ruffians were encamped a quarter-mile away from the village of Blackjack, which is situated outside of modern-day Baldwin City. Before dawn on June 2, 1856, John Brown leads an estimated group of 30 anti-slavery militia members against Pate and the Border Ruffians. John Brown splits his group into two, with him commanding one and giving command of the other to Samuel T. Shore. John Brown and Samuel T. Shore then launched an assault on Pate and his men. As the fighting commences, both sides use the environment to their advantage, with both taking shelter in the gullies created by the Santa Fe Trail and in nearby creek beds. They end up fighting into a stalemate. While John Brown and his men were outnumbered by Pate and his pro-slavery forces, Pate did not know that. After hours of fighting, Henry C. Pate raises the white flag to negotiate with John Brown. During negotiations, John Brown's terms called for unconditional surrender. Pate refused those terms and returned to the Border Ruffians, where the fighting continued. John Brown wanted to capture the entire Border Ruffian force, so he sent some of his men behind them to keep them from being able to retreat. Once behind the enemy force, John Brown's son, Frederick, yelled that the Border Ruffians were surrounded. Hearing this, Henry C. Pate believed that anti-slavery reinforcements from Lawrence had arrived, and again he put up the white flag and would surrender to John Brown. After this, John Brown and Henry C. Pate would create an article of agreement that provided an exchange of prisoners between the two groups. This exchange returned John Brown's sons to him. Later, after this incident, Henry C. Pate would write, quote, "I went to take Old Brown, and Old Brown took me," end quote. Some would argue that the Battle of Blackjack was the first battle of the American Civil War, as it marked the beginning of organized violence between pro-slavery and anti-slavery groups. The Article of Agreement would signify the end of the Battle of Blackjack. This conflict would continue to push the North and South farther apart, as well as continue to introduce John Brown and his radical ideas to the country.